this is a test to record our Hangout and see if we can spread some knowledge around the world via YouTube, our favorite website, right? Okay. Well, this is in an effort to get us together, but it is also early in the game, and what we're trying to eventually do is move this whole thing to a free and open platform of Jitsi, and we'll just be using this Google thing until we can get Jitsi set up and running for us on the May 1st server, which should happen soon. So I'm going to open the presentations today by sharing my screen and just doing a little overview of Drupal installation profiles. It's not a deep dive at all. This is just presenting what we know. Oh, we have a quick question. What is Jitsi? Jitsi is a free software platform for video conferencing, and it's based on Jabber and the XMPP and a couple of other protocols. So it should be up and running very soon, and we'll be able to do most of the things we do in Google+. All right, so I'm going to share my yes. It is at jitsi.org. Thank you, Stefan, for posting the link in the sidebar.
Okay.
And I'm going to share my screen. And I've clicked on the green arrow. And it's trying to share my screen. Is anyone seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Alrighty, well, it's I believe it's trying to. I don't see it doing anything now. So I guess most of you are familiar with Drupal.org. And if you go to Drupal.org, you will see a link for downloads. And if you open another browser, let's see, we go to Drupal.org. And then you can select distributions. Right at the top right of Drupal.org, it's being a little slow for me. You can see download and extend, and then there's a sub-menu of tabs where it says download and extend home, Drupal core. You can see distributions. If you click on distributions, you are shown a list of them that you can sort, as you can on any Drupal thing. We usually search for full projects, and it's going to come up with the most popular ones first, of course. So there's Commerce Kickstart, which is, I guess, the top-rated Drupal installation profile, because everyone wants a store. So let me get back to my Hangout. Is anyone seeing my window yet?
No.
No, you're not seeing. The screen share does not seem to work in the live chat. Wonderful. So I'm going to post. Yeah, I've clicked on the green screen share thing, but instead I'm going to just post a link to what I'm looking at. The first profile that I'm looking at is for Drupal Open Atrium, and I've posted a link in the sidebar. Open Atrium is basically a blend of Drupal with most of the features of organic groups in it. You can segment your site easily into groups and topical like silos. And to show what it looks like, I've got a Pantheon account set up where I just loaded their.
Something. Oh, that's somebody else.
Could you guys mute your mic when you're in the conference room? Thanks.
Sorry.
That's okay. A little bit noisy, but the link I'm going to post is to one of my students' sites that I put up on Pantheon. I just install profiles so that my students can look at them, play around with them, and see what's up with them. Right here, whoops, I'm getting a connect message. I do not wish to connect. And I'm going to post a link to, this is the Pantheon instance of my student's site. She's an artist. and she's thinking of using Open Atrium. So this is basically a fresh install that I've put up there. I'm not going to go too deep, as I said, so the next one that I would look at is Commerce Kickstart. We used this install once, and it seemed a bit cumbersome. Here's a link to the Commerce Kickstart project page on Drupal.org. It seemed a bit cumbersome because it had a lot of things in there that a small store owner would not want, and it had a very steep learning curve because when you post a product, you have to basically post it twice. You have to post a display and a product page, and those two have to work together. The instructions were, last time I looked at them, not very intuitive to a new user. It just wasn't obvious you needed to post two things to get your product up there. I have a student who is using the Commerce Kickstart to do her store to basically sell homemade products that she has, like hats and scarves and things, and I've just posted a link to that. This is an install that she has been modifying. She's been playing around with the theme and trying to get pictures in there. We know she's using too large a picture for the header for each topical category. If you see, you can click on sample category 1, sample category 2, and if you scroll down, you will see the products. But obviously, her next lesson is that the image must be a banner and very short so that you can scroll. You don't have to scroll to see products. The last thing I'm going to cover is that making an installation profile is something that, as Agaric, we've been asked to do for clients when we create a site for them, specifically a site that we're working on for MIT that is a culture site that it basically allows students to input things like a saying in French, and then the English saying that would be related to it would be posted, and then a discussion can start on how there's two different understandings for the same thing. They would like an installation profile so that basically anyone, or mostly any college that they're related with, can install this and start their own discussions on culture based in any languages they want. I'm posting a link here to how to write a Drupal 7 installation profile, and it can be rocket science, but it was very easy for me to get started, but I'm sure it would be easy for someone that knows as little as I do about code to get very lost as I go along. So I have some great mentors on my team. I thank Ben and Stefan for helping me learn a bit about how you can create an installation profile when you get your Drupal site into a shape that you want to be able to share it with someone as a distribution profile. So that's my show, and I'd like to let someone else take over and present something that you know. It doesn't have to be long, short, it can be one sentence. Who would like to jump in? Or could I ask that maybe Stefan jump in and just give a little bit of info more on the installation profile?
Well, I actually did that last week. Today I have something different.
Oh, that would be great. Wonderful.
I don't know if anybody remembers. Last week we talked about using Migrate for populating a site that has been set up with an installation profile with initial data. So anybody wants to know more about that, we can talk, but not now. So now I just wanted to present something quickly that I rediscovered recently, accidentally, something I used to do textbook exercises. It's a Lisp dialect called Racket. It comes with a full IDE, and I'll show you how to get it. Oh, I have to share my screen, I guess. Maybe let's see if it works for me. So I am screen sharing. I mean, at least it shows it.
Yes, I see your screen.
Okay. So Racket has a website like any serious programming language nowadays. You can download it for different platforms, Macintosh, Windows, different versions of Unix and Linux. And the nice thing is, so I've already done that. As I said, it's a Lisp. It is a Lisp dialect. It has a lot of libraries, like you expect from a language. You can make websites. You can do string transformations, whatever. If you're not familiar with Lisp, it also offers a very nice tutorials. And now let's get this to the foreground. What is this? Let's quit and start again. No, I'm not seeing it. It has a very nice, I mean, you can use any editor, of course, but it also comes with a full-blown IDE, including a debugger. It doesn't look very sanctimonious. But yeah, you can select the language. I actually cannot show some code now because I just set it up right before. But you can, for instance, use it as it also supports Scheme. You can use it, for instance, to do the exercise in the great textbook structure and interpretation of computer programs, which I recommend for anybody who wants to learn programming, no matter the language you're actually using. Okay, now let's put up some links here. So what did we have? HTTP, hold on, racketlang.org, right? And for the structure and interpretation. By the way, the people who wrote that textbook still hang around in Boston, I believe. It's pretty old, but it's pretty good anyways. Let me find the link for you. Where is it? MIT here. Ah, great. I got it. Where's the Hangout? So anybody interested in learning Lisp or improving their programming skills, or like learning something basic that you have never learned because you just started writing Drupal sites? Here it is. All right, so we still have time for somebody else to start a lightning talk or some 10-minute talk.
By the way, you can also buy that book at Walmart.
Oh, still? Hey, you can download a free ebook if you want to. It has really good exercises. You want to refresh your programming skills, or learn, as I said, learn what you never learned when you started web development. I mean, for me, it was pretty good. Anyway, somebody else take over, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have something that I'd love to throw out to the folks on the call if you're interested.
Great. Yes.
So it's Drupal, and it's kind of going to a fairly basic part of Drupal and asking if our typical way of using it is really as well thought out as it could be, and that's the permissioning system, specifically naming roles and structuring your thinking around roles. This is something that we've played around with for quite a while, and I did a presentation, I guess last year at some point at Drupal Nights about helping your clients roll out their website to, say, a team of folks who need to create content on it or otherwise manage the site. And so I'm imagining everybody on the call can instantly picture what the roles page looks like on Drupal, and it wouldn't actually add a whole lot to struggle with sharing screens and getting an example. But basically the notion around helping clients roll out their website to contributors is that there's a bit of an adoption curve, as we all know, and the adoption curve often actually leads to kind of degradation of a site or to people feeling like they're failing at their tasks. Stefan experimenting with light in the background. Anyway, yeah. So the basic kind of notion is, and by the way, you guys are muted. I saw Ben's lips moving, but the basic notion is that if you want to help clients actually adopt their sites, roll them out, that you probably actually want to name roles in a way that help people understand, their expanding abilities with the site. And so instead of naming roles in our traditional fashion, where it almost matches a title on a business card, like someone might give a role to, I don't know, if you had a client with a lot of locations, it might be a role for general managers or site directors or something like that. It sounds like their title. Or you might have a role for, if it's training, you might have a role for instructors or something along those lines. But ultimately, that you run into a couple of problems. One is, even though a person has the title of director or instructor or something like that, they may or may not actually understand the types of tasks that you expect them to be able to do. They may or may not have been trained on it. They may or may not have the company's vision for it. And so I wanted to throw out this notion that instead of naming things, roles that way, perhaps it's more something along the lines of, if you wanted to break out what an instructor can typically do, once the person has been trained to post a description of a course, then they would get the permission to post a description of the course. Once they've been trained to take attendance of the folks who are participating, then they would have the permission to take attendance. And a site director might also, for example, be able to post a description and take attendance. Of course, the Drupal setup will let you give the same kind of groups of permissions, to both of those roles. But I guess the proposal that I'm throwing out here is roles are generally really hard to read as if they actually reflected what people can do and actually reflected their understanding. So what do you guys think about this idea of coming up with logical names that say, here's what you've been trained to do, or here's the vision that you understand?
It sounds interesting. I understand the dilemma totally. I'm not sure how that could be circumvented. Maybe a little pop-up when you hover over the role name. It could list tasks they could do or something.
Then you're getting into the whole permission system.
I know.
All of them. I mean, the way I was understanding
Tricky.
is, and I've often sort of looked at it this way. So yeah, you instead of, so you give each role only the permissions that apply to that role. So you give it much more focus than just, okay, so let's say instructors can also do comments or something. You have a role like commenter and instruction poster, and so each thing has a few roles with it. I never thought of it quite that way. I'd often thought about a similar thing, which is instead of giving each role all the permissions, to sort of say, if you want, not expressing well at all, that, if I'm going to give someone the admin role, then I also better going to give them a manager role, then I also better give them the commenter role, just to make sure that, so I don't have to keep track of the permissions in more than one spot. But frankly, I mean, every single site I've been involved with, it's been more, the hard part has been getting people to define responsibilities and roles at all, and it hasn't been that hard to set up the permissions in a logical way once people actually know what their roles are. But I definitely, I've sometimes wished that Drupal had made it easy for you to say a given role automatically inherited another role's permissions, the way you can do with the way all roles inherit the authenticated users, so that you could sort of, only define the permissions that mattered for a particular role, and you wouldn't have to do what your system suggests, give each person 5 roles.
But you're getting all the permissions of the authenticated user when you authenticate it.
Yes, the authenticated one gets inherited. So I would like to be able to say that my manager role inherits like the commenter role, the same way they inherit the authenticated user role. That's the similar thought to this that I had.
Yeah. I don't know. My thinking is that roles and permissions are overused and they should be kept to a minimum, and rather people trained what to do. So what you should prevent are disastrous things. That should only be possible to an admin or maybe to nobody, like deleting a post or something. But then this is always open. Yeah, this is all people think permissions solve problems, but they actually produce more problems than they solve usually. Because you always make them too narrow, and that then leads to well, how do you say that in your language? Then there's always someone, oh, I don't have the permission to do that, and then there's a huge delay in getting something done.
Yeah.
So the art is keeping roles and permissions to a minimum and training people to actually do the things they're supposed to do well.
Yeah, and Ben brought up one of the challenges no matter what approach you actually take. By the way, Stefan, the approach you're suggesting actually is a good pairing with the structure that I think Ben is also describing, that I was describing. So Ben, you mentioned discovery, the challenge around discovery. And it seems to me that especially clients tend to think in terms of the titles of their collaborators, the title that appears on their business card. Do you have a way of helping them understand differently, or of discovering the information and with circumventing that problem?
Well, it has been pretty much what Stefan said, but I try to make sure no one can delete everything, turn on revisions for every content type by default, so everything is recoverable, and be as generous with permissions as possible.
Yeah, but the clients.
You don't have to make the roles relate to titles at all.
Yeah,
it's more related to the software.
Exactly, that's the recommendation.
Don't give them too much importance.
Yeah, so Stefan, the recommendation I'm making is actually, and the question I'm asking is actually, there still is some discovery that has to take place. So how do you guys, when you talk with your clients, introduce this notion? How do you get good information from them? Even the non-destructive tasks at times need some limitation.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I haven't tended to have clients that wanted to use their business, the roles from their business cards.
Okay.
But I mean, making up role names, I've never felt I've done a good job at that. It has never been an intuitive name. To everybody in the project. Anybody in the project. So
what hurdles have you run into by not having intuitive names? I mean, there's the obvious ones of people read it and they don't understand, and there's the other obvious one that Stefan brought up of it introduces a delay because nobody understands, so they can't give the right permission to the person.
I mean, usually you don't even see your role unless you go to the profile edit page. I mean,
even then you shouldn't see it.
But now we're no longer talking actually about an organization that needs to roll out the site to contribute, right? If they're not seeing those roles, they're not rolling it out. They're relying on you to get it all right at the start for everyone who's ever going to touch the site across,
Yeah.
True.
Mostly what we found is
the time is over now, by the way.
Yes.
Just when it's starting to get hard.
The time is over.
We have reached the cliffhanger moment. And yes, the time for this week is over. Kay, I think that's a nice topic. Maybe if you could prepare a little demo for a future Hangout, that would be great. Like maybe a couple of screenshots to point at what you're talking to or something. If you need help with that, tap me. I think it's a really good subject, and it's something that every Drupal site starts with and can end up tricky.
So if you guys are showing up at the meetup tomorrow, my plan was to spring it on folks there too.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I'm going to make the future ones much easier by always posting the link on the Agaric site. So before the chat, just stop by the Agaric Show and Tell page, and you will have the correct link. We won't let Google fool us again. Maybe. So thank you all. I'm going to stop the broadcast, and you are free to go about your business. You may walk freely about the cabin now.
Thanks, Pilot.